World War II, a global conflict that reshaped our world, wasn't just a story of heroism and liberation. As the nations clashed, the United Kingdom emerged as a pivotal force in the Allied victory, its efforts instrumental in defeating the Axis powers. However, beneath the surface of this celebrated triumph, there lies a more troubling narrative that casts a shadow over the conventional tales of valor. During the tumultuous years from 1939 to 1945, the UK was involved in numerous operations across the globe. While many of these actions are lauded for their strategic brilliance and crucial impact, some have been scrutinized under the harsh light of retrospective judgment. Allegations of war crimes committed by British forces, though often overshadowed by the larger narrative of victory, prompt a critical re-evaluation of wartime conduct. These accusations range from indiscriminate bombings to harsh treatment of prisoners, raising profound questions about the moral complexities of war. Today, we delve into history's complex layers, examining the actions that still stir debate and reflection. Our countdown begins in the picturesque cities of Italy. As the war raged on, the United Kingdom initiated strategic bombing campaigns targeting the Axis powers. These operations, however, did not solely hit military targets. Historic Italian cities felt the brunt, suffering extensive damage. Civilians, caught in the crossfire, paid a heavy price. The bombings raised significant ethical questions, blurring the lines between military necessity and humanitarian concerns. Were these actions justified acts of war or something grimmer? Next, we travel to Greece, where liberation came at a high cost. During the tumultuous times of World War II, British forces were involved in several punitive actions across Greece. These included not only reprisal killings, but also the forced evacuations of entire villages. These severe measures were responses to resistance activities, yet they left deep scars on the local population, raising serious questions about the proportionality and necessity of such actions. The line between liberating and oppressing can sometimes blur. Chemical weapons, a feared tool in warfare. Throughout World War II, whispers and allegations surrounded the United Kingdom's potential use of chemical weapons. These claims, while not extensively documented, suggest a dark undercurrent in the strategies considered by military leaders. The exact details of these operations are not fully transparent, and definitive proof remains elusive. As historians delve into declassified documents and testimonies, the full extent of these allegations continues to spark debates among scholars. The truth remains veiled in military secrecy. Not all battles are fought on the front lines. In the grim shadows of World War II, the treatment of prisoners of war under British custody raises poignant questions about the adherence to wartime ethics and international laws. Reports and testimonies from the time describe conditions that often veered into mistreatment and neglect, leading to unnecessary suffering and, in some tragic instances, death. One such controversial episode is the Batang Kali massacre, where allegations of severe misconduct surfaced involving the killing of unarmed prisoners. These accounts starkly contrast with the principles outlined in the Geneva Conventions, which Britain was a signatory to, emphasizing humane treatment of all captured combatants regardless of their role in the conflict. Furthermore, numerous former POWs recounted experiences of harsh treatment, inadequate food supplies, and poor medical care in camps run by British forces. Such conditions not only marred the physical well-being of these individuals, but also cast a long shadow on the ethical standards expected during conflict. The Geneva Conventions aim to protect the rights of all combatants, friend or foe. Internment camps, a grim reality behind barbed wires. During World War II, the United Kingdom established numerous internment camps that housed enemy aliens, those considered a potential threat due to their nationality or political beliefs. These camps, scattered across the British Isles and some colonies, were meant to secure national safety. However, the reality for those interned was far from secure. Conditions in these camps were often dire. Overcrowding was rampant, leading to insufficient living space and a chronic shortage of basic necessities. Sanitation facilities were inadequate, contributing to poor hygiene and the spread of diseases. Many internees suffered from malnutrition due to insufficient or low-quality food. Moreover, the psychological impact on the internees was profound. Separated from families and stripped of their freedoms, many experienced significant mental and emotional distress. The lack of proper medical care and the uncertainty of their confinement exacerbated these issues. These conditions starkly highlight the complexities of maintaining human rights under the pressures of war. human rights do not pause, even in wartime. From the battlefields to the fields of Bengal, where war met famine. In 1943, the Bengal region of British India was struck by a devastating famine. This catastrophe was not merely a natural disaster, but was significantly influenced by wartime policies enacted by the British colonial government. As World War II raged, critical decisions were made that prioritized military needs over civilian welfare. The British government's choice to stockpile food for troops and export rice for war efforts while restricting rice imports into Bengal directly contributed to the scarcity that fueled the famine. Moreover, the implementation of the scorched earth policy to prevent Japanese invasion led to the destruction of boats and rice stocks, which were vital for the survival of millions. The famine resulted in the deaths of an estimated 2 to 3 million people, a staggering human cost that raises profound questions about the balance between military objectives and human rights, a tragedy of war or a preventable catastrophe. In Palestine, the echoes of conflict involved British boots on the ground. During the tumultuous years of World War II, British forces were not just passive overseers but active participants in a series of operations that have drawn scrutiny over the decades. The British mandate involved not only maintaining order but also implementing strict measures that often escalated into severe actions against the local population. Military operations were frequently accompanied by curfews and administrative detentions. These measures, ostensibly for security, sometimes veered into collective punishment, affecting entire communities. Accusations of human rights abuses surfaced with reports of forced relocations and suppression of civil liberties, painting a picture of an occupation heavy-handed in its approach to control and discipline. Incidents where force was used excessively were particularly controversial. These actions were defended as necessary for maintaining stability and suppressing uprisings, yet they left a bitter legacy that complicates historical assessments of British intentions and actions in the region. Every action has its shadow, casting long in history. The Inferno of Hamburg raises haunting questions. In late July 1943, the Allies launched Operation Gomorrah, an intense bombing campaign against the German city of Hamburg. This operation aimed to cripple German war production, but at a devastating cost to civilian life. Over 8 days and nights, thousands of tons of bombs rained down on Hamburg, creating a firestorm that would consume much of the city. The ferocity of the firestorm was such that temperatures reached over 800 degrees Celsius, causing asphalt streets to ignite and the very air to become inflammable. An estimated 40,000 civilians lost their lives, and a further 1 million were left homeless, their lives upended in the blink of an eye. The scale and intensity of the bombing sparked a significant ethical debate. Critics argued that the sheer destructiveness of the campaign was disproportionate to its military objectives, crossing the delicate line between strategic necessity and indiscriminate violence. The ruins of Hamburg still whisper the horrors of war. Coventry, a city that suffered from both enemy and possibly neglectful hands. In the dark hours of November 14, 1940, Coventry was subjected to a devastating Luftwaffe attack, known historically as the Coventry Blitz. The city's landscape was dramatically altered as waves of German bombers unleashed their payloads, reducing much of it to rubble. Over 500 civilians lost their lives that night, and the city's iconic medieval cathedral lay in ruins. Amid the debris and despair, questions arose about the British government's foreknowledge of the attack. It's been suggested that British intelligence, having cracked the Enigma code, might have had prior warning of the Luftwaffe's target but chose to withhold defensive actions to protect the secrecy of their intelligence capabilities. This decision, if true, placed the strategic advantage over immediate civilian protection. Further complicating the narrative were the city's inadequate air raid precautions and shelters, which were starkly insufficient for the scale of the attack. The tragedy of Coventry thus encapsulates the harsh dilemmas of wartime leadership, where choices were often grim and outcomes dire. The scars of Coventry remind us of the cost of war. At the top of our list, Dresden, a city synonymous with wartime controversy. In the final months of World War II, the Allies launched one of the most intense bombing raids in history upon the German city of Dresden. Over 3 days in February 1945, British and American forces dropped a staggering volume of explosives and incendiary bombs. The objective was clear: to cripple German military capabilities and morale as the war neared its end. However, the reality of Dresden was far from a straightforward military target. Known for its rich cultural heritage and stunning architecture, Dresden was also packed with refugees fleeing the Soviet advance from the east. The bombs unleashed a firestorm that obliterated the city center and claimed the lives of tens of thousands, with estimates ranging widely from 25,000 to more than 135,000. The rationale behind the Dresden bombing has been heavily scrutinized. Proponents argue it was a necessary evil to hasten the end of the war and save more lives in the long run. Critics, however, decry it as a disproportionate and indiscriminate attack on civilians and cultural landmarks, questioning its strategic value. This event has stirred a significant ethical debate that persists to this day. Was it a justified act of war, or an excessive show of force? Dresden's story reflects the broader complexities and moral dilemmas faced during wartime, where the lines between right and wrong are often blurred by the fog of war. Dresden's ashes became a symbol of the moral ambiguities of war. As we revisit these shadows of the past, we confront uncomfortable truths. Through the lens of history, we've examined the darkest corners of wartime conduct attributed to the United Kingdom during World War II. From the bombing of civilians in city squares to the severe conditions in internment camps and the controversial use of devastating firepower, each chapter has compelled us to reflect on the moral dilemmas faced. Understanding these complexities is crucial, not only for historical accuracy, but for the lessons they impart. History teaches, warns, and, most importantly, reminds us of the depths and heights of human actions.